What's going on, guys? Chandler here. So before we get started, this is another Patreon early access podcast. So again, if you want to support the channel, my YouTube channel, or the podcast, the Chandler Burton podcast, head over to patreon.com/Chandler Burton Entertainment. Again, patreon.com/Chandler Burton Entertainment to join the $1 tier. Join the $1 tier will give you a ton of perks, early access podcast, early access videos, shout out and videos, a whole bunch of other perks, again, just for $1 a month. So again, if you do like what you hear and you want to support the channel or the podcast going forward, again, patreon.com/Chandler Burton Entertainment. And I want to give a huge shout out to Joe of the Vocalist of Lightworker for coming onto the podcast and having a conversation with me. Absolutely wonderful human being. And again, I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. And again, thank you for your ongoing support. Much love to every single one of you guys.
You're listening to the Chandler Burton Podcast. Turn it up to 11 and rip the knob off. This is Chandler Burton.
All right, my friends. Well, welcome back to the Chandler Burton podcast. I am your host, Chandler Burton, and today, super special guest on the show. We got Joe, the vocalist of Lightworker. How you doing, my brother?
Good, man. How are you?
Dude, I am doing good, man. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on and having a chat with me, dude. I really appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, man. I was telling you before, so I wonder if you remember this here. So, I actually did a. So I do. I'm sure. I think you've seen my channel before. I do reactions. I did a reaction to your. It was a Hoobastank cover that you guys did a little while ago. Is that what it was?
Yeah. No, I remember that.
You remember? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I was like, all right, yeah. And then, yeah, dude. I was like, man, that'd be really cool to like talk to this guy. Seems really approachable. So I was like, dude, thanks again. So yeah, thanks again for coming on and having a chat with me, dude. Really appreciate it. I'm happy you remember that. Yeah.
No, for sure, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I do my best to. I have a terrible memory, but like, I do my best to, just remember anybody that listens to us and supports us. I think that's really important to acknowledge our listeners because we wouldn't have any kind of following or anything that we have without them. So so I definitely try my best, but I'm getting older, so we'll see how long that holds up.
I feel you. No, you're very, it seems like you guys are very cool and like responding and just being really interactive with your fans and those types of things. So I was going to ask you too, I know, of course I know you guys don't have any control over this, but I was really hoping that you and Spirit Breaker would have come near my area so I can meet you all, because I love Spirit Breaker, that tour you guys did. I'm like, dude, this would be so awesome to meet you guys. You had to wrap that up a little bit early, didn't you?
Yeah, my mom was sent to the hospital. So we had to wrap that up. I think we did most of the tour. I think it was just the last 2 dates that we had to cancel.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately. But we love the Spirit Breaker folks. And I hope that we get a chance to share the stage. I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
And so, but great people, fun to be around, and solid music. So
yeah, dude, for sure. So did you guys was it like did you guys play the same amount of time, or like were you headlining, or how'd that all work out?
Yeah, it was. We kind of like flip flopped.
Okay.
So there was definitely some nights where they headlined, and then some nights we headlined, and we played I think the same amount of time, we just, that was mainly the Midwest.
Cool.
That's
awesome, dude. That's really, really cool. How was the? I was curious. It was just because it was just you two, you guys. You're just your guys' band, right? How was the response for Spirit Breaker and Lightworker? Like, hopefully it was some good turnouts for you guys. I hope.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And then there was definitely shows that were like highlights. There was like some shows in Texas that were amazing.
Awesome.
The first date was awesome. from what I can, I'm just trying to remember back.
Yeah.
And just meeting really cool people and just having really good conversations and connecting with folks that either for the first time or like long time friends and listeners that we kind of have been interacting with since we dropped Fury by Failure. So it was really cool to kind of finally meet those folks in person.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's really cool. I'm glad you had the opportunity to, kind of meet them and those types of things. And that's always probably such a wonderful thing to hear, like, people like resonating with your guys' music and just like having them tell you how much it means to them. And then something that you created helped out someone else. I'm sure that's just like the best feeling in the entire world.
Oh, dude, it blows me away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something we don't take for granted and we don't take lightly. So
I love that, dude. That's awesome. Well, awesome, man. Super cool. Well, let's get to know you a little bit, dude. Like, tell us a little bit about, yourself. Like, what are some things that you like to do for fun? Some hobbies? Like, let's get to know Joe. Let's get to know you a little bit.
Well, I think kind of like the known thing, if you're like in some Facebook groups with me, like the Labeled podcast group or the Facedown group, is that I have a major collection of vinyl. I have over 1,000.
Wow, really? I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah, so I have like over 1,000. I'm really into fish keeping. I don't have a tank right now, but I really am into just like fish keeping and just like, I guess just the ocean and just like I get lost like watching like nature documentaries and stuff.
That's cool. What's if you don't mind me asking, what is fish keeping? I'm not actually entirely sure what that is. Like, yeah.
Oh, basically just like I guess the most mainstream way of putting it is like, you go to Petco or PetSmart and then they have like tanks and then you just get some fish from there. And,
okay.
And what I like to do is kind of more of the they call it aquascaping. So I try to make it more realistic, like the fish's natural habitat and whatnot.
Okay.
And it comes down to like some like low key like easy science and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. Like yeah. So I'm a total nerd for that.
No, I think that's cool. I never would have. That's why I love getting to know people, because like I never thought. The one thing that we definitely have in common would be, we both love the heavy music aspects, but it's so fun to like hear what other people like to do outside of music or YouTube and those types of things. I never thought that would be one of your hobbies ever. I didn't even know what that was, so that's pretty cool. that's pretty awesome, right, man. Yeah.
I love it. And so I'm also a big film fan, and then I'm also really into I guess like specific kinds of games. Like we were talking about this before, but like God of War and all that stuff, like the 2018 version. Like I'm a sucker for a really good story, a well-written story.
Me too, man. That's awesome. Well, definitely want to talk about games too. But let's. You said you're a film guy, so what kind of films are you? You like what's your favorite genre of film?
Probably just. I think it's really a genre that I'm really like a huge fan of. It's more like it's kind of like the video game thing, just like a really good story.
Sure.
Well-written scripts. I'm a sucker for like clever cinematography. So like in terms of like well-written scripts and stuff like that, like I really am a fan of Martin Scorsese's kind of stuff, and so Goodfellas, Casino, stuff like that.
Nice.
And then in terms of more like cinematography, like 1917 was brilliant.
Oh, dude, yeah. I told people when I saw that movie, I was like, even if you don't really care about like what was going on, like, dude, just the way it was shot with that one camera was just amazing. I saw it in theaters on a big screen. I was like, dude, I was blown away. Good movie. Yeah. But the camera work is incredible in that film.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And so, and then, stuff like that. And it's kind of cool how like I think movies actually have a lot in common with music, and I mean they're just as important to each other. I mean, imagine watching, like Home Alone without any of the soundtrack. Everybody knows that.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
I actually just watched that the other day with my dad. I was like, man, that's a good movie, dude. Love that movie.
The first two are amazing.
Yeah,
so, I mean, or just watching Jurassic Park, or without the John Williams, and that's both John Williams. So
right.
But like it enhances both, and that's kind of like why I like watching music videos as well, because it kind of adds, like, there might be a song that I'm cool with, and then I watch the music video and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it, I'm sold.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess you could say. Grayson, the guitarist of my band, he tends to like more lighthearted stuff, but I like the gritty. Yeah, that's just my bread and butter. But I love that movie, The Revenant.
Oh, dude, yeah, great film, dude. I remember I actually worked at the theater when that movie was out. It was always like packing out people. I was like, I gotta go check this out. But yeah, that movie's awesome, dude. That's really cool. I like what you said about music and movies kind of going together, because that's like my two favorite things. Like, for me, it's more of like, I love a good, I'm with you. I love a good story. I love when something that kind of like subverts my expectations. So I'm definitely more, if I were to pick a favorite genre, it would be definitely a horror, like a thrill, like a psychological thriller is like my comfortable, like, I love stuff like, I don't know if you've ever seen like The Gift or stuff like that, or like even like Get Out. I love Get Out. I think it's a wonderful film.
Haven't seen either of those yet, but I do like when horror is done well. Yeah, I love it. You know, like,
it's got to be done well though. It can't be cheesy. It's got to be a really good story. And if it hits well, then dude, it is like just a great film. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, like, for example, I really liked, I guess it's kind of sci-fi and horror, but like I really liked like the A Quiet Place series.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people were complaining about they didn't really like part 2, but I liked part 2 a lot. I thought it was really good. But yeah, those movies I love the idea of it. I think it's so clever. So yeah, good storytelling without really any words. That's like good storytelling to me, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially I mean, I like the second one, but the first one, I guess because the idea was so fresh and new, and I saw it in the theater, where not even a soul was coughing or anything like that. Like, it was just pitch silence, and it was just very intense. So, but yeah, like that's an example of horror that I can think off the top of my head that I absolutely love.
That's awesome, dude.
But yeah, so yeah, as long as it's a good story.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, we can kind of tie that into. It was funny you said 1917. Kind of tying that into God of War. God of War had like the same camera, or like, unless you like die in the game, the camera's like that one shot with God of War. And I was like, this is a very interesting way to like do this game. And I think the new one that I just picked up today, I think it does the same thing. That one camera shot, and it never leaves the characters. I just think that's so awesome, dude. I'm the same way. We were talking before. It's like I play video games to kind of escape the anxieties of my life, and so like I'm a big PlayStation guy, big Nintendo guy. So again, I love like Legend of Zelda. But if we're talking PlayStation, like Last of Us, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, or Forbidden West.
I need to play that series. I still haven't played that one.
Yeah, it's nice. It's because like you can get the first one like pretty cheap with the DLC, but yeah, the new one is really cool. I'm sure I'm missing Uncharted. I love Uncharted. I mean, those games were fantastic, but yeah, like Last of Us and God of War are like two games that I'm just like, this is like next level storytelling. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
What'd you think of part 2? I love bringing people on talking about Last of Us Part 2 if you played it, because it's so controversial. I know it's been out for like, I think 2 years now, but people are still talking about it. But what'd you think of Last of Us Part 2 if you've played it?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I guess my only thing about it was that I feel like we didn't get enough time. Well, I mean, the spoiler alert for anybody. It's been 2 years, but still.
Right.
I feel like they could have made another game with Joel.
Absolutely. I agree with
and I feel like this Last of Us Part 2 felt more like a Part 3 to me.
That's exactly what, dude, I was about to say. It feels like Part 3. Like, this feels like the ending of a massive trip, but it's only Part 2. I said the exact same thing to my sister.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so, I mean, like, I really think that, because Joel is such a beloved character.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think a lot of people can, even though we don't particularly live in a zombie-infested post-apocalyptic world, I feel a lot of people can identify with Joel. You know, the kind of like the wounded kind of guy who has lost his child and obviously his wife before that.
Yeah.
Before, you know, you know, the love that you kind of see that he has for Ellie and whatnot. Like, you get a glimpse of it, and obviously you get, I mean, a huge glimpse. I mean, like you peek into it in Part 1, but in Part 2 you only get a glimpse of it. And I feel like Part 2 could have built the tension between both characters a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there was an adventure in there that could have, I'm forgetting all the details right now, but like could have pissed off the group that ultimately ended him, you know?
Oh, the wolves or the WLFs, I think, right? Was that? I think that was them.
I think so. I can't quite remember.
Either that or the Seraphites. I don't quite remember. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But I feel like they could have like made the tension a little, you know, like there was a missed opportunity, I believe, in that, and not only that, just like seeing Ellie, like, I guess, see them getting closer, and then, you know, what was Part 2, which could have been Part 3, is like, okay, in the beginning they were kind of like, she was kind of wanting to not separate herself from Joel, but I think typical of any young person growing up, I think you kind of want to, you know, prove yourself and kind of go off on your own, and so you didn't really get that. You got a lot of that bonding in Part 1, but I feel like there was a step that was missed.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it was funny. I was telling my sister about it, and where it was like a lot of the flashback sequences that they had, like when, you know, Joel tells Ellie about, you know, what actually happened, and like that could have been its own game. Like there was something still there that they totally could have done. And then as I said, as you were saying too, Part 3 felt like Part 2, so there was so much going on. So I like the game. I definitely prefer Part 1, but there's definitely something missing with Part 2. But I still really enjoy the game, and again, I'm stoked for whatever they do with Part 3. I'm really looking forward to it. Naughty Dog, it tells like the best stories in video games in my opinion. They're so good. So I'm excited, dude. I'm excited for anything they put out.
I did hear that they had like loose ideas for like a Part 3. But like I feel like they were talking about how they're like leaving kind of Ellie's story alone, and they're just doing another game in that world.
Oh, really? That would be that's interesting. Yeah.
I think that's what I read like 2 years ago, but things always change.
Of course. So, okay.
But
we never know, man. That'd be cool. I'm excited. Whatever they do, I'll be excited for it. But awesome, dude. I'm glad we're able to relate with those types of things. I love people say like, you know, I love video games and movies. I'm like, dude, that's like my cup of tea, man. Like I love that and music, you know. So awesome way to start, dude. Yeah, for sure. But well, again, thank you so much for coming on and just having a conversation with me here. I'm super excited to dive into kind of like, you know, your history with the band. What I love about doing these podcasts is one thing I try to make it stand out is I want to make sure that my listeners or whoever listens to it really gets to learn about you as a person and gets to know like you as a person, because we see you as like this awesome vocalist, by the way. You got some great vocal, screams and cleans. But I really want to make sure people know like, you know, who you are as a person when it comes to like, you know, what you like to do and like mental health and all those types of things. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into your journey as Lightworker, because again, I love Fury by Failure. I think I own it. I just wanted to make sure, you know, I just wanted to show
thank you, man.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. I think it's really good. We'll talk about that more as we go along, but I'm excited to actually hear about the band, you know, Lightworker. Like I'm really excited to know like how'd you guys come to be? How did this band start? Because you guys kind of showed up on my radar, because again, I'm subscribed to Solid Say on YouTube, and I actually got recommended a few of your songs. Like, wow, these guys are like super sick, and I've never heard of them before. So like, how did Lightworker like start? I guess, like, if you want to tell us like kind of the story of it.
Sure.
Awesome.
It kind of started because my band broke up.
So you're in a band before Lightworker, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was that band was actually like it had some traction. We had some good things going, but
Awesome.
we ended up just kind of our drummer ended up having to leave for a variety of reasons, and we just struggled trying to find the right replacement.
Okay.
And so we had just released like 3 singles, and like I said, we were kind of picking up momentum, and it just kind of stopped. And then left over from those writing sessions was a song that I had, and I really wanted to record it. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the whole band thing again. But I hit up one of my best buds, Nick, and I was like, hey, can we record this song that I have? And he said, sure. So I recorded that song, and that song ended up being Cholera, which is,
okay.
Yeah. And that's why I think it sounds a little bit different than the rest of the record.
Yeah.
Because that was the song that I kind of wrote front to back by myself on that record, on Fury. And we just kept writing together after that. And, long story short, we ended up, recording an EP. And there was a period of time where we were just kind of floating around, and we had some lineup changes. And once that happened, I think the band really started to kind of become a lot more active and whatnot.
Yeah.
We got involved with, I've known the Phineas guys forever.
Oh, awesome. They're a great band too. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I knew those guys even before Daniel joined them.
Oh, okay.
So those guys introduced me to Daniel, and just by default we became friends. And then me and Grayson, like after Nick left our band, Grayson kind of like filled those shoes of being like the co-writer in the band. So because we both contribute musically, and Phineas came through to our area, and we just asked him, be like, hey man, do you want to record us? And things just started to fall into place. He became involved, produced all the music on Fury, and then
nice.
A buddy of ours named Chris, he played in a band called Dead and Divine, then from Canada. And then he played in a band called 100 Suns with Corey from Norma Jean.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
And which is great, by the way. Mm-hmm. If you like more of the melodic Norma Jean side, because he screams in 100 Suns, but definitely not as much as in Norma Jean. But yeah, if you want kind of more of that, then definitely check out 100 Suns. And then now he's in a band called Teeth. Mm-hmm. But he kind of managed us for a little bit, and he introduced us to Bo Burchell, who kind of came into the fold and produced the vocals on Fury and mixed the record.
Okay.
And then we just kind of with Dan being in our corner, kind of introduced us to Solid State, and it just kind of fell into place. So I think that we had never toured before either. So we signed without ever touring once.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I the only other band I've heard of doing that was like, woe is me. I've never. That's pretty cool though. I mean, your music's got to be good. If they're like, yeah, dude, we'll sign you.
Yeah,
it is good. It is good. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. I love hearing that because I had no idea. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so we felt extremely lucky, and they're like, "Are you guys planning on touring?" And we're just like, as much as we can, like as much as is I would say financially responsible.
Yeah.
And
for sure,
then we signed in October of 2019. Then we got announced the following year, and now we're here.
That's awesome, dude. That's really cool. So, like, it's kind of I just thought of this actually because I told we would talk about this here. So, like, with with touring and stuff and like your job, how does that work? Like, do you just do you have to put in like vacation time to go on tour? Is that how that works?
I'm actually able to work remotely, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you work? Do you work on the road then when you're out?
Yeah, I do that. It's not an easy thing to do,
right?
But you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So, what do you do for you work for Google? You said, or
yeah, I work at Google.
Okay.
I'm on a team there, and they're very understanding, and
dude, that's really cool. Yeah.
So
that's super sick. Awesome, man. So what is by the way, it's super cool. I had no idea you were like homies with Phineas. I've talked to Daniel a few times, mainly when I do like Fit for a King reactions. I'll tag him in it, and he's usually like, "Oh yeah, dude, thanks for checking it out." So I haven't like talked to him, but he usually replies. Super nice dude. I mean, all those guys in that Fit for a King are just so nice. So,
absolutely,
yeah. And I love the song that you guys did with Ryan Kirby on this album. I mean, it's just a banger, dude. Just so
thank you,
dude. The whole album's a banger. I'm excited to talk about it more, but it's like I have so many questions that I want to ask you because I'll say it. I think you guys are so underrated, and I'm just like, dude, we gotta get these guys like bigger, dude, because you guys make great music. But we'll talk about that more. But I'm curious, what does Lightworker mean? Like, how did the name come to be? Does it have a meaning at all? Is it a I'm excited to hear it. Yeah.
So that portion of the story is kind of funny because, first off, we were originally called Red Sky.
Okay.
Or Red Skies. Then we changed it to Red Sky, and then we got threatened by another band that was no longer together. They had the copyright to the name or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so we were just like, they were like, "We'll license it out to you." I'm like, "Oh, no, we're not going to pay you to
no."
So we would just try to come up with different band names, and there was this one band a long time ago called Yesterday's Rising.
That's cool. Yeah.
And they had an album called Lightworker, and I just thought it was a really cool like term,
Okay.
And so I suggested it, and the other guys were like, "That's sick," because it doesn't sound like like a typical metal band name, But yeah, with depression and anxiety and whatnot, like it's something that I kind of struggle with, and so just trying to, I guess, have the name kind of like correlate with the music, where it's just kind of like, hey, we're going through, life is difficult, and but among all the chaos and that is life, just trying to have that kind of like glimmer of hope,
definitely,
and that hopefully we try to hopefully we accomplish that in one way or another.
I love that, dude. Yeah, I've seen your guys's those videos that you made when you were putting out Fear by Failure, like you and Grayson was the guitar player's name. Yeah, I saw that you guys were talking about each of the songs, and I'm like, man, these guys are like really open and really just like wanting to like, definitely it's therapeutic for I assume yourself, but I think definitely it can help other people as well, because I think this album is really, there's a lot of mental health stuff on the album that are just, it's cool that, I mean, you're willing to share that story, because again, someone, even if it's one person, it's gonna help them, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, hopefully, man. That's the goal, and with our upcoming record, it's we tear the Band-Aid off even more, so to speak. So
fantastic. I love that, dude. Yeah, and it's hard when no life is hard, but again, it's cool that you're able to take that. It's cool that you're able to take the, something that obviously, like you could do other things to kind of help your depression, like something that may lead you down the wrong road, but you're putting into something, fairly healthy, I would say, and that's making good music. And I think that's just a wonderful thing, man. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
So how did you, speaking of like, music, how did you get into like heavier music?
That was like it started off as a very slow process.
Okay.
So I am of Latin descent. So I come from a very traditional background.
Okay.
So I grew up with a lot of Latin music and church music and whatnot. And then I had a cousin that was really into like Iron Maiden, Nirvana, Slayer, Pantera, all that stuff. And I always really liked the twin guitar parts that Iron Maiden had.
Yeah.
But I always felt kind of guilty listening to it.
Yeah.
So like I just never, so I never really like completely indulged. But as I got older, I started getting more into like the, I guess, screamo stuff and post-hardcore stuff.
Yeah, man.
And I think it got to the point where I was looking for something heavier. And I could have gone the hardcore route or the metal route. And metal was just, I like breakdowns, but I love riffs.
Yeah.
That's like, I love the shred. So
absolutely.
So I kind of went that direction. However, I do really like the strong sense of community within the hardcore scene and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of respect for hardcore. And it's not my favorite, but there are definitely some select bands that I really do enjoy. That's kind of how I just kind of fell into it that way.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, my buddy Kyle, he's a hardcore guy through and through. He loves the community. I think that's just absolutely awesome. I'm getting more into it. I'm on your side. I'm more of a metal. Like, I love some good riffs, some good breakdowns, some good singing. So I'm like, I love that aspect of music. I just think that's so cool. That's awesome, man. It's always fun to hear people's journey because when you say, hey, I listen to metal, most people are like, how the heck did you even get into that kind of music? So it's always fun to like hear people's story of when it comes to getting into like heavy music, dude. So that's super awesome. So I was gonna ask you as well. So when it came to Solid State, so essentially what you were saying is like, I guess what Daniel helped you kind of get signed to Solid State. Like, how come? Like, were you guys offered by any other label, or was Solid State like your first choice to sign?
So basically, kind of what happened was, I'm not even sure if Corey from Norma Jean remembers this, but because Chris was in a band with him, they were just talking, and I guess like one day they were just kind of catching him. He was like, "Oh, what have you been up to, Chris?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm helping like manage this band called Lightworker, and whatnot, and we want to pitch them to labels, including Solid State."
Cool, yeah.
And he's like, "That's cool." And I think, and we were waiting for our masters for Fury, and I guess Corey told somebody over at Solid State that Chris was managing a band that they should check out. So they kind of had, I guess, quote unquote, first dibs, and
nice.
And Dan was already like Solid State was already aware of us. So between like Corey's recommendation and then Dan, we just it just kind of fell into place. So I guess you could say in a way there was no, like, they were our first and only offer, but
okay,
because of the fact that like it all happened behind the scenes so quickly.
Yeah.
There wasn't really an opportunity to shop around, because I guess it was just, we were already known in that circle, and I mean, it would have been Solid State was a top choice for us anyway.
Definitely,
and
yeah, they're awesome. Yeah.
And it just ended up being a really good fit. We're super stoked to be a part of the roster, a legendary roster.
Yeah.
And the fact that we even get to be a little small blip on that is just insane to me.
Yeah, man. That's super cool. Yeah, I love Solid State. I've actually had a few people from Solid State reach out to me saying, "Hey, can you do like a reaction to the song?" I'm like, dude, totally, I will, man. That's super cool. And I love how they're cool with reactors, and they're really awesome. What's nice is that Solid State, when I do reactions, they don't block the video, so I'm able to put the music video in the reaction. So I'm like, huge props to them. I actually emailed them saying like, thank you for being cool with us here. So I'm like, thank you for being nice. But I guess what are with all that, what are your thoughts? I did a reaction to your guys' song. I'm sure other people have done reaction to Lightworker. What are your thoughts on reaction channels? Do you think they're helpful?
I think that's kind of I think that's kind of like a new outlet for bands.
Totally.
To get their name out there. You see guys such as yourself or Nick Nocturnal, or and there's a bunch of other folks that react to it, and I think it's great. I think it's one of those things where it's we're just going further into a digital age. So and especially with the last in early 2020 when nobody could a lot of people were just stuck inside. It just gave people something to do, something to watch, and I think it's another added layer of promotion for bands. And I think it's great. I don't really see any negative in it.
Yeah. I love that, dude. That's all. I love asking the artists what they think of it here, just to see kind of their, and everyone that I've asked, I'm like, dude, we love them. They're super fun and they're awesome to watch. So I'm good. I'm glad you like them, man. That's awesome. Because I plan on doing some reactions to your new stuff when we eventually get that. So you'll see it on the channel for sure when it comes out. Awesome. Man. So yeah,
I would absolutely love that. Yeah, we love it when when folks break stuff down and kind of analyze it too, and because it when folks notice that stuff, then we're just okay, all the work that we put into it was just it was already worth it, but it just it's icing on the cake,
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure just as we talked about earlier, I'm sure it just feels so good watching a reaction channel and they kind of break down for me personally, because I don't really play any instruments. I do some screaming vocals, but I don't do anything else. But so for me, when I do reactions, I mainly break down usually the lyrical content of what it's about, kind of give my own interpretation, and then I can kind of share a story about my life and those types of things. So I try to give that aspect of it. And again, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's music is communal thing. So
totally.
I think that's a good thing to put out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of tying into all that here. Now I kind of definitely want to talk about, Fury by Failure. I love this album, dude. I think it's so good. And actually, I don't know if you've gotten this comparison, but I think it's completely true. You got your sound, the way this album sounds like an early 2000s metalcore album. I don't know if you've gotten that before, and I don't know if you've gotten that your singing voice reminds me of Howard Jones of it really does. I'm like, dude, he sounds like Howard Jones, and I mean that in the best way possible. I'm like, dude, you can sing, dude, and you got some good screams. Dude. Seriously, I'm not just trying to say that because you're on. You're really good. So
thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So I guess tell me the process of putting this album together. So this is your first full length. I mean, there's got to be, I know you guys did Resilient and EP, right, with Lightworker,
right?
And then so this one's your full length. So I assume, at least for me, I would have so much anxiety putting this out. I mean, how did you? Because again, I watched your guys' video of you guys talking about each song. It's very very, very cool to listen to. But I guess hearing from yourself, how was it just putting everything together, writing the lyrics, make sure all the riff sounds cool. Was it stressful at all for you? I'd be so stressed out, dude. I'd be I don't know how to do this, man.
it was definitely. I think writing music is definitely. There's always challenges, but that's also like part of what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Fury was a product of us working on it for like 2 years.
Okay, so you had some time.
So we had, a good amount of time to, write a good chunk of the album. And I don't think it was ever like really anxiety inducing.
Okay.
Except for when I got sick while tracking vocals, but that wasn't fun. But I think we kind of saw. So Resilience was a little bit more. I hadn't screamed in years, so I kind of lost my ability to scream, except for like some lows. So that's why the EP is mainly singing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then on the album, it was just like, well, these songs really call for it. So I had to like come up with a new technique to, figure out a new technique. And so as we were recording the vocals, I was also figuring out my screaming vocals. So
that's actually really cool. Again, that's very because it does. I mean this in the nicest way. It doesn't sound like you're trying to get back. You sound great. And again, I'm not just saying that because you're on. Like your vocals sound very clear and very good and like healthy. So it didn't sound like you were trying to find your voice at all. It sounded like you were just, ready to rock and roll. So I didn't know that. That's very interesting information. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's been it was definitely a little bit of a journey.
Okay,
But lyrically, I mean, I think it was very much about where I was at in life from like the end of my other band through my life up at that point in like 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And so I think it was definitely a little bit more of a I'm trying to think because of how to word it, but it's just more my observations of like my direct life and what was going on then. It was a lot more specific.
Yeah.
I guess, as opposed to this new album, which definitely has. It's kind of funny on the new album. It gets even more specific, but it also goes in the polar opposite way, where it's like there's definitely broader subjects that we kind of broach. So.
Okay, very interesting. And so, kind of going on to the lyrics here, this album seems to be a very, like I we kind of talked about earlier, very like open, like very honest album. A lot of this, I know there's a song on there, I know it was talking about your mom, right? What you talked about in the beginning, a couple of those songs, I believe. And so like, how was it, like, I guess, how does it feel to release this, like, knowing that people are going to hear it, people are going to, take a deep dive into those lyrics. Like, is it hard for you? Because obviously sometimes when it comes to like mental health or things that we struggle with, it's hard to like kind of talk about it. For me, I didn't tell my mom that I struggled with depression until I was about 23. I'm 29 now. And so I didn't really, I was so nervous to tell her like I'm struggling. And I'd always put on this fake face, and I was like just afraid that my mom would think differently of me. Of course, when I told her, she just, still cared about me. But it's like, like, is it hard? Is it hard to put yourself out there like that, knowing like this is your story essentially? And is it hard for you to do that, like when it comes to that?
I think on this new record more so.
Okay.
But in terms of Fury, I think you mentioned having anxiety like releasing the album, and I would say that there was definitely some anxiety releasing the album as a whole, not so much like lyrically.
Okay,
but I think that with on the lyrical side of things, I guess. Yeah, I on Fury, I not so much. I was just kind of like, this is kind of what I'm going through, and I think everybody can understand and relate to when somebody that you love gets sick.
Definitely.
And and it's difficult. And so like for me, it was just like, okay, are folks going to like the music? And then, if they like the music, then, like maybe they might dig the lyrics. Or there are a lot of listeners that I know that are not very lyrically driven. They just want cool riffs, cool breakdowns, and sick screams.
Yeah. And you guys have all that, so that's awesome.
Thank you.
You got that lyrics and everything. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. So
thank you.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's kind of where the turning point is, though. With like this next record, I think I would say I'm not like nervous about it, but I'm definitely curious to see what the reaction is to the lyrical content on them, because I think I got a little bit more I felt like I had no choice but to be completely honest on a lot of this on the new material. So but Fury, even though there's like some like heavier subject matters and whatnot, I feel like it's a little bit more universal, so to speak, in terms of like, like, hey, I am talking about like anxiety, or I am talking about depression, or my mom being sick, or my friendships with a particular individual, like struggling, but I feel like that's definitely a little bit more like people understand that,
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I love that too, because it's like everything that you talked about right there is something that we can all relate to, in our life, and I think that's what's so cool about your guys' music, that there is like your lyrics are super cool and they're told in like a story type fashion, and it's like it works so well. And so I think it's really cool that you guys are able to do that and just put yourself out there and just to let people know, like, hey, we're all struggling here. And again, like, I think the music is just fantastic, the way you guys are able to portray it. And I reading some of the comments, everyone seems to be very positive, like especially on like your older, like some of the older stuff here, like reading the comments on Solid State, I'm like, dude, people are really liking this, and they're saying like you guys are awesome, and I'm like, I love seeing that. And reading some of the comments saying like this song really helped me. Even I'm like, I'm not even Lightworker, I'm like, this is still super sick, I'm like, it's just so awesome to see. So I love that.
We're and we see those comments, and we're absolutely grateful for those comments. They give us gas in the tank, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And so it's definitely something that we're super grateful for. And I think about almost every day. I'm just like, I can't believe people dig this, and it's amazing, so
I love it, dude. I think that's super cool. So I guess with all that here, we just talked about too, like how some people like prefer the kind of the lyrical stuff and the heavy stuff here. So I kind of want to ask you, like, how did you, so I know you said you were kind of learning in the studio, kind of recording, Fury, like how, like overall, like how did you learn how to like scream and sing? Because dude, that is honestly one of the hardest things ever, being able to switch. Probably like live, I assume it's even like harder. I couldn't even imagine how hard that would be. So like, what do you do to like warm up? How did you learn how to do it?
I learned how to do it incorrectly.
Oh, there you go. Trial and error. There you go.
At first for the screaming, I was in choir ever since I was like in kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
And through like the majority of high school.
So you kind of learned how to like sing properly, like through choir and stuff.
For the most part, like
cool.
As you get older, you're obviously your voice changes and things change. So and going on tour is very different, and headbanging and running around on stage is very different than obviously standing there and just like singing.
Right, exactly.
So but yeah, like I would say I had a really good foundation because of choir.
Great. That's awesome.
And then screaming, I just after school in high school, I would just go into my room because my mom and my sister wouldn't get home until about a half hour after me.
Okay.
Because my school was a lot closer, so I was able to walk home.
Yeah.
So I would just like turn up Deftones or Finch, and I would just scream along to the lyrics.
Heck yeah.
And try to get that distortion, you know, and that's how I screamed for the longest time. But and it was like super ridiculously loud. And but the thing was that if I didn't do it for like a week, so yeah, I just started just like yelling as loud as I could, but trying to like add, you know, rasp and distortion to it. And but then I didn't scream for like 4 or 5 years. So like I just I kind of lost my mids and highs.
Yeah.
And so that's when I needed to, you know, like figure out a new technique, because I would try to go back to the old technique and it just was not working.
Okay.
And it did not feel good. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So so yeah, I just kind of like relearned, and now my scream is probably just as loud as my singing. So it's like not as like brutal, or not brutal, but it's not as loud as it used to be. But like, but I feel like the actual vocals like sound even more brutal, especially on this new record, because I go lower than I ever have before, and I go higher than I ever have before. So
I'm stoked for that. Yeah, man.
So yeah, volume is not, you know, I feel like, you know, it's kind of like yelling at a concert. If you're doing that consistently, that's not going to be sustainable for tour, you know, night after night, week after week. So
right.
I'm glad that I was kind of forced to figure out this new technique.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's super cool. Again, I love hearing how people learn how to do it, because everyone does it a different way. I just watched the Zenna Screaming from Alyssa Cross, and that really helped. I don't know if you've ever seen that video or heard of her. I just watched that, and I was like, you know what? She's really helpful. So that's just what I did. So
and I use her warm-ups.
Yeah, she's terrific. Just terrific, man. That's awesome, dude. So, all right, man. Awesome. So, I got one more question for myself, and then we'll jump into my patron questions here, and then we'll get things wrapped up here. And so, we kind of talked about this through message here. Obviously, we won't talk about like the financial of being in a band, but like, what would you say are the pros and cons of being in a metal band? I mean, obviously, there's so many pros, but there are some cons. You know, of course. So, like for you, like if someone were to come up to you saying, like, "Hey, dude, I really want to start a band. Like Lightworker is like my biggest inspiration. We just want to do what you do." What are the pros and cons of being in a band?
I think a lot of folks don't really realize how much work it actually takes. I think you know, you have to. These days, you kind of have to, I mean, it's not so much even just about the songs anymore. You have to be a content creator. Like, the songs are content.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you need to know how to do, like, basic graphic design. You need to know how to do basic video editing and stuff like that. You know, so basically, you're kind of more of an entrepreneur, a jack of all trades, so to speak. And at the same time, you also have to have good songs. Yeah. And even then maybe somebody will listen to your band. So, you know, I don't think that's necessarily a con, but it definitely, I would say it's a challenge. Yeah. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And finding the right chemistry with the right people, you know, and it's time consuming as well, you know, so I wouldn't say there's like necessarily any cons.
Yeah.
Being in a band, I guess it's more like, hey, it's more of a disclaimer. It's like, hey, this is what you're going to have to do if, you know, you're in a band. You know, you need to know all this stuff. It's not just going on stage and filming music videos. You know, it's also contributing from your own pocket, especially in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and all that. And, but, you know, the reward is like seeing people get into it and, you know, like being able to have conversations about, you know, just all this stuff, you know, like music, and meeting people. And so I would just say to somebody, just make sure that it's something you want to do. And if you're going to do it, go all the way.
Yeah, definitely, dude. And it's funny because like I think you could definitely once you get to that point. I've seen a lot of metal bands like Brian Kirby's talked about how he makes an okay living doing what he does. Fit for King's a pretty good sized metal band, but I wouldn't say definitely don't do it for the money. Do it because you love it. But yeah, I agree. Like putting in your full effort and just going for it. Because yeah, it's kind of like with me where it's like when I make content, I want to make sure I'm uploading as much as I can. Because I feel like if I don't, people are just gonna forget about my channel. So I try to make sure like I'm always trying to make sure there's content available. So and doing the best thing, doing the best material that I can. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing was like, with content and whatnot. I mean, that's the thing is also trying to avoid burnout.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me or like artists. I'm sure it can be exhausting doing it, man. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So awesome, dude. Well, I got 3 patron questions. 2 of them you may not be able to answer. One of them I did not know if this is true or not, but he wanted me to ask here. But so we did talk about kind of the new material. Is there anything else that you can say about the new album? I know you said you go higher, you go lower. It's more open, like when it comes to the lyrics. Like, but is there anything else that you're able to tell us about the new album without getting in trouble? I don't want to get in trouble by Solid State or
I would say, no. I would say ultimately it's for the listeners to decide, but awesome. I think it's in my opinion, I think it's a little bit heavier overall.
Nice.
It's I would say it's anywhere from 10 to 20% heavier.
Nice. Very cool.
So not like a crazy amount heavier, but just enough to where it's like, okay,
yeah.
And then we've got. I'm trying to give like Easter eggs.
Oh, you're good.
We've got some guests on this record.
Oh, nice.
I'll leave you with that, and
okay.
Then
that's fair.
And then it's 10 tracks, all actual songs, no like interludes or anything like that.
Nice, that's perfect.
So it's I would say also there is a kind of like a sequel to the song 1018.
I love that song, dude. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yeah.
So there's kind of like a quote unquote sequel. It's not like a direct. But it kind of like it pulls from the same subject,
Cool. Okay.
Matter and in kind of like the same, I guess, time of my life.
Yeah.
So there's that. Trying to see. Yeah, I would say that it's a little bit more breakdown heavy than the first one.
Oh, sweet, nice.
So, I think overall we just pushed ourselves harder.
Great, man.
In the instrumental department and in the vocal department, because there's definitely some stuff on there that, like I said earlier, like some of the low screams are even lower, and we actually posted some Instagram stories kind of giving like little previews of that, where it's just like, oh snap. And
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and then lyrically I would say this is the most raw I've ever been, because I talk about some very heavy stuff. I would say like Fury had, a lot of themes that I think were, I would say that they, were definitely still heavy themes, but this one kind of broaches, suicide and, and then I would also say like, specifically like the abuse I went through as a child.
Oh, dude. I'm sorry to hear that. No, truly, that's horrible. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Of course, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and but like, so we're getting, I think, definitely a bit more raw in that regard. So, because I think when you listen to Fury, like, I'm talking about my friendships, I'm talking about, relationships, and and anxiety and stuff like that. But I feel like, some of these songs, like I said, are just getting really into the nitty gritty, like the darker side of, I think, I guess, kind of my life.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing all that, man. I appreciate it. I'll definitely be excited to do like when the songs come out, do like a deep dive into the lyrics, kind of get my own interpretation of it and those types of things. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know if you can answer this one, but he did want me to ask. Do you know when we can expect it? I don't know if you could say it. If you can't say it, I totally get that. So it's all good.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, we don't even know yet.
Okay, that's fair. I assume next year. I would assume.
Yeah, we're hoping sometime in the first half of next year.
Okay, cool. Cool.
But we still don't know yet, because our album is actually beginning to be mixed next week. So
cool. Okay.
So, and that's going to be a process within itself, and then we go into mastering, and then we have to go, get the artwork situated and get into production, all that stuff. So, so there's still I would say the vast majority of the work, with the exception of like 2% of the work, has been completed on our side.
Okay.
We just have like, so, I mean, I have like some harmonies I need to sing on like one song, and then I'm done.
Cool.
So like,
okay. Yeah.
So we're really close, but it just, the moment we know, everybody else will know.
Cool. Sounds good, man. And then last question, I didn't know. I think he just wanted me to ask this. I don't know if he was saying, do you want to go on tour with this band, or if it already happened, or if it's going to happen. He said, are you going on tour with Wolves at the Gate, or is that someone you want to tour with? I don't know if that sounds right or not. I don't, it was a weird question. I was like, I don't know if that's what they were saying. Do you want to tour with them, or were you supposed to? Like, I have no idea if you were supposed to or not.
Got it. I would love to tour with Wolves at the Gate. I think Solid State has, past and present, has had extremely talented vocalists. But in my personal opinion, I think Steve Kabuchi, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, is creme de la creme of vocalists.
Yeah, super good.
And an extremely sweet guy, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, I would absolutely love to. It's hopefully it happens in 2023.
That would be amazing, dude. That'd be really
cool.
So I want to see you, Spirit Breaker, Phineas, and Wolves at the Gate. I don't know how that order would be, but I would love. That would be a great tour, man. That'd be sick.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we would. That's all. Like, basically, we either know all the members of all those bands, or we know like a few members. So that would just be like a bunch of homies just hanging out every day.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing too, is that like, we love meeting other bands and hanging out with them. Like, we are genuine fans of the bands that we tour with.
Yeah.
And, so, that's why you'll see us like repping their shirt, or like,
totally,
picking up their CD or vinyl, So, but 2023, we definitely want to be busier and hitting the road a lot more.
Awesome, dude. That's great to hear, man. Well, dude, I'm gonna give a little bit of, and of course, this podcast is of course about you and learn about you. If there's anything that you would like to plug, like your socials or anything like that, and we'll kind of just wrap things up from there, man.
Yeah, sure. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Joey Dietz. That's Joey, and then DEETS. You can follow my band on Instagram at Lightworker Band. I would just say, keep streaming Fury, and follow us and subscribe on Spotify, because the moment that a song drops, it'll be there, or Apple Music.
Yep.
And those things definitely help out smaller bands like us. I guess last but not least, we look forward to just hanging out and meeting more of you and getting this new record out.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I want to thank you so much, dude, for coming on to the podcast, having a conversation with me here. Thank you for being, so open and just so like chill and cool. Like, you're super cool to talk to, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, likewise. I really enjoy this conversation, and I appreciate it, and I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, that would be great. We'll definitely have to talk more when the new album drops. We could definitely have a conversation about it for sure. But again, I want to thank you all so much for listening to this podcast, the Chandler Burton podcast here. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on, talking with us here. Again, always remember that every single one of you guys are loved. And until next time, I hope y'all take care. And thank you again, my brother, for coming on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.